Right.
Hello, hello. Good to see you. Noah Redler with us today, and the lovely Cici, of course, with her tea, because that's how she rocks. Cats and tea. That's how she gets going every Friday. Super, super happy to have you again with us for another edition of the Check-in. As you all know, at Montreal NewTech, we are open for innovation, and innovation takes variety of forms. Leveraging technology as well as humans, the lovely humans that we have today, to have more impact on our society. So for the people who don't know yet, the famous Noah Redler from the Canadian ecosystem, we're very, very lucky to have you with us, Noah, today to talk about a little special edition of Le Check-in that is about smart cities. So we are joined with Cici from Montreal NewTech, Noah Redler from Arche Innovation, and co-founder of the Smart City experience that is coming up very, very soon. Hello, Noah. How are you doing?
Hey, Elias. I'm doing pretty good. I do my best, but I'm just trying to be in your shadow, and that's all. That's all the stardom I want. Like really, just behind you.
Yeah. For the people who didn't know, Noah Redler is actually a very famous figure of the Montreal
you gotta stop saying that.
Canadian ecosystem. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. But joined with us here is Cici as well. How are you doing, Cici?
I am very swell. It's not tea, it's coffee, because it's time for the school grind. I switch over to coffee when I start to suffer with the leaves falling.
Yeah, it's true. It's the busy season for the students. We're very lucky to have Cici at Montreal NewTech as well. She's doing the whole scientific and tech on the student side. Specifically, she was leading with Simran, who's not here, the out of the bubble experience itself. She's like hiding now, but for working with universities. On how to empower students to become better entrepreneurs and get out of their school bubble. So super happy to have you with us today as well, Cici.
Oh, thanks, Elias. Again, like Noah, I'm always in your shadow.
Oh, go. I can.
You know how hard we had to work to get a spot on this show? I mean...
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So super happy for the people who don't know and who have been following the check-in. Usually Valentin is holding the fort, talking about the news, talking about what's going on in the ecosystem, both from the previous couple weeks and the upcoming weeks with the whole team behind. But time to time, we want to take this opportunity as well to dive deeper into specific subjects. And we couldn't pass on this awesome opportunity to see Montreal NewTech be part of the Smart City experience. And that's why we're going to dedicate our show this time to the famous Noah Redler.
Well, it's a smart city experience, right?
Well, personally, I wouldn't mind like dedicating it to you because, well, not in an arrogant way, of course. I know you're very.
I feel like I'm third wheeling.
We haven't seen each other in a while, so this is the closest we've had to a date.
In the middle with your coffee thinking.
Thank you for chaperoning us.
Yeah. The reality is that, like, with all what's happening with the COVID, we are a bit further away. We don't see each other enough, etc. And there are still a lot of things going on. And I'm very, very happy to see people like Noah and his whole team actually very actively, and we'll dive into this, trying to change the status quo on the experience that we can provide, both leveraging technology and the human spirits and collaboration to move our society forward. So I would love to dive and with the chaperoning of Cici to talk about Noah Redler himself, the man behind many, many initiatives over the last decade in Montreal. He's one of the guys who actually launched and helped launch with the Osmo Foundation, of course, the Nutman House. I remember painting the walls of the Nutman House for the people who don't know them. He was the first general manager, and correct me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong, like I'm getting old, so I forget stuff, but leading the Nutman House rejuvenation and positioning it within the Montreal startup ecosystem. It's important to remember those important points, as well as working with other organizations. We can think about Innocité, for example, and collaborating with that was at Notman House as well, working on certain smart city smart city initiatives, as well as leading a variety of things. I remember the Challenge Cup that brought like some amazing speaker from abroad, etc., etc. I could keep on going for the last decades of Noah, but we're not here to talk about Noah. We're here to talk about the latest initiative that he co-founded with the support of a variety of players. So Noah, very happy to have you with us, but please tell us a bit more about what is this new initiative.
All right. Well, I like the way you described that whole past experience. I think it's a little bit more pumped than I remember it, but we'll take your version of it. But I was the first Director General, Executive Director of the Notman House, and as you know, Elias, you were part of it. The Notman House was started by a full movement of people, the Real Ventures team among them, and Montreal NewTech played a huge role in getting the community involved, even in the first crowdfunding campaign for Notman. And I was very thrilled to be there during the construction phase and bringing the Notman mission to life. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. I truly loved it, and it allowed me to work and spend my time geeking out with guys like you and a lot of other people over the years. But it was really, all these experiences kind of led to what I do now in Arche Innovation, and thinking about how ecosystems work together, how different communities work together to, really move ideas forward. And if we think about the startup community going back about 10, 15 years, it was a group of dedicated actors rolling up their sleeves. Elias, you remember the first Montreal NewTech events that were on the second floor of a bar that didn't have any ventilation. The first hackathons at Notman before it was constructed, and a few other places. And, we're in this evolution of technology. We've talked a lot about ecosystems and how they needed to be formed. We're talking more about open innovation now. Montreal NewTech does a lot of work in that space. Osmo is doing a lot more, and many others as well. And us, Arche, as a private company, now working more in the private sector, what we want to do is take that ecosystem thinking, take that startup mentality, and also bring a new type of thinking into the question of smart cities. Because, one of the things that we want to do with this event is remind people that smart cities aren't just about technology. We want to reappropriate that term and to remind people that we want to be smart about cities. We want to help them transform for the betterment of the citizens, to improve quality of life, to make cities more equitable, to create new opportunities. And all of these elements we have to think about before we start planning what's the technology that's going to facilitate it. Because the technology will be there to create the experience, to manage it, to give us data to allow us to make better decisions. But there's a whole world, an entire foundational element that has to be done to get cities ready to really take part in what I think a lot of people want to see in smart cities, which are more open, with more open and shared data, with more collaborative platforms where citizens can be involved in making in creating solutions, but also thinking about cities as innovative places. We need to think about food security. We need to think about mobility. We need to think about local economies and opportunities we're creating. And if we're not thinking about the full picture of what a smart city is, we're not going to get it right the first time. We're not going to get it right, and we're going to have to spend another 50 years after the first 50 years of planning them, just reorganizing smart cities. And right now, with all the innovation talent that's out there, we have everything we need to properly plan. There's work it's going to take us a long time to implement them, but we can start that thinking today and put down the foundations. Yes, the tech infrastructure to be able to capture data and to be able to facilitate access to internet. That is a part of it. But how are we thinking about the social aspect? How are we thinking about even the most vulnerable communities among us? Do they have a place in this smart city? Because we can't just create a city that only works for a few or that privileges a few. So we want to bring a diverse variety of thinking and see how technology meets social issues, meet economic issues, and start that discussion to start demystifying what a smart city is and where a city of any size, a municipality, better said, of any size, can get involved and start planning for their more innovative future.
Absolutely. Cici, what does it inspire you? What Noah just said?
Well, honestly, I think when you say the word demystify experience, like it really like I don't know. Personally, when you say smart city to me, I think smart home, smart microwave. Like I'm not really sure who are the key players, what exactly you were trying to do, and like I mean, personally, I don't know much about the smart city, so it's very interesting to see what you guys are doing and like learn more. Especially when you talk about the social aspects, which I didn't really think much about before. So I don't know.
Well, it's an essential element, and we're very lucky to be supported by the city of Montreal, the city of Montreal, for anyone who doesn't know, won the Infrastructure Canada Smart City Challenge 2 years ago, and they just announced the branding of their project Montréal en Commun, which really pilots all the different smart city projects. A lot of them very socially minded organizations like Récolte, La Cantine pour tous, La Fabrique, Agile, and Open North. You know, they're all working on how to facilitate, how to really think about the social aspect and food security, mobility, and many different other subjects. We're lucky that Stéphane Guidouin, the director of the department, will come and give us a presentation of what Montréal en Commun is. But we'll also have the leaders of many community groups that are launching projects, presenting what they're doing and how it fits into a smart city strategy. Also on the 5th, we have Luc Desjardins, who's the Director General of L'Itinéraire. L'Itinéraire, for most people maybe remember when we were going into metros, there were les camelots who were selling magazines. But you know, there's a whole question to think about: where does the homeless population fit into a smart city world? How does a camelot who's trying to create a living for himself sell a magazine when I don't have any cash in my pocket? And what's the relationship with digital money, and how are we going to structure this? You know, there are a lot of considerations and a lot of thoughts we have to put into it. And throughout Smart City, we're going to be really diving deep. We've got, just to mention, we have 4 separate episodes. So we set it up as 4 weekly episodes every Thursday throughout the month of November, the 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th. And every week, we're going to take another perspective from the municipal perspective, the provincial perspective, looking at smart city projects all across Quebec, the federal perspective, looking at the national perspective, looking at smart city projects all across Canada, and then even the international perspective, bringing in smart city projects from Europe, from Africa, we have the head of nano satellites from Tel Aviv University joining us to talk about where satellites will play a role in the cities of the future, and that'll even project us into where we're going in the next few years. So it's really important to think about it not just on the element of how we're going to fix our cities, but also remembering that our cities are part of a global community of cities that also have to talk together. You know, there's a word that gets thrown around a lot in smart buildings. Smart cities are different connected systems of interoperability. And you also have to wonder what happens if the system that I've created here in Montreal, for example, is completely different from the system we have in Joliette, that we have in Quebec City, that we have in Tremblant, in Sherbrooke, or anywhere else across Quebec. If our cities can't talk to each other, then we need to have a new interface every time we drive an hour or so. And we're not feeding data directly into the province, so the province can make smarter decisions. These, like, smart cities, require us to change not only the tools and the technology we use, but smart cities require us to also think about how we're going to reorganize the way cities work. And, you know, just if any city officials are listening, like, one thing that's so important is that there will be a need for so much more human intervention in the future. Technology will not be taking your place. We need you more now than ever to help the cities adapt. But it's going to change. It's going to require that we all rework the way city department works, budgets work. These are much bigger questions than we can solve tomorrow. But at the same time, we have to start having a conversation. That's what Smart City Experience is all about: having a conversation and sharing perspectives from municipalities of different sizes, private and public perspective, academic perspectives, and even the perspective of startups who are trying to do work with cities.
That brings us to an interesting topic, and I love. Well, obviously, I love your passion, and that's why I'm following your friendship and your actions very closely, because we're very lucky to have this kind of like good consideration. Good according to me, but like I would say, hopeful and aspiring impact at the crossroad of technology and inclusion for better like city tomorrow, etc. Where you also, and that's one of the reasons why I'm very, very happy to see the collaboration and the work, that it's a lot about collaborating with the cities, between themselves, collaborating between the larger companies and the startups to develop solutions, collaborating with citizens at different levels of wealth, in a way, at the social positioning. But that brings a question that you may guess, that like with all those moving parts, the cities among themselves, the startups and large companies, we are in the middle of the week of SMBs, la semaine mondiale pardon, la semaine canadienne de la PME. We have the large companies who are looking for digital transformations and inclusion of citizens. We've seen the Black Lives Matter, the movement, so many pieces that are moving. Like, what are you hoping to achieve with all those pieces for this first? And so just so that you know, it's the first Smart City experience. I'm very happy to have you with us. What are you hoping to achieve with this?
This year, we're hoping to get the conversation started and show that there is a platform to have a conversation. We're very realistic in the current context that that there's limits to what we can do. I mean, we had a lot of ideas when we started planning this earlier in the year about having testing zones all around the country and being all over the place. For safety reasons, we're not going in that direction this year, but lots of things that we have in mind for years to come up. But really, it really is about that. Like we want to have that conversation. We want that conversation to happen on a local, provincial, national, and international level. We want people to start saying, "Hey, this isn't as scary or as complicated as I thought. Maybe I don't need to have a massive budget to start thinking about my smart city. And maybe I should just start thinking about what is the experience that I want to offer to my citizens, and what do my citizens want coming up in the next 10, 20 years? There's a lot of considerations, and it's extremely complex. And, you know, it's not going to change overnight. This will take years and years and years to do. But the way we have to look at it, and, you know, one of our favorite things, Elias, is, you know, for me, smart cities represent the most complex digital ecosystems and human ecosystems that have to intersect. And, you know, that's what has to be done. And that's what we're trying a baby step to do with this first edition, is to connect that ecosystem and allow the different actors to speak together. Because you do need, like you said, a lot of people from different communities. Everyone's very busy. Everyone has their own practices and focuses, but we need a communal and a multidisciplinary assault to cities. Assault is the wrong word. I'll take that back. Approach to cities, in the sense that, you know, like, if we do it piece by piece, it's gonna be complicated, and these pieces won't talk together. If we think about, you know, really like a startup things, if we think about the full stack, the scalability of cities, not how do we build a city for the next 10 years, but a city that can transform itself over the next 100 years. That's the question we have to have today, and people have to understand that this is the time we have to have that conversation. The decisions will be made, the cities will transform, but we can get involved, and we can be a part of designing the cities we want. We can get involved in designing rules around data collection and data sharing policies, so we can protect everybody. Or we can stand back and wait to see what happens, and somebody else will answer this question. But I think it requires a popular movement. I think it requires private, public, academic, citizens all to work together. And we have some great community partners, Montreal, working with us. We have a lot of, we're supported by the city of Montreal, but also sponsors like Bell Canada and Leader Tech and Energia. And all of them are just saying, like, all right, how do we help cities modernize? You know, talking to all the different speakers, everyone is really passionate about this and wants to get involved. And so, you know, we were talking about the early ecosystem back in the day, where it was, you know, fun and informal, and everyone was just rolling up their sleeves. That's the kind of vibe I get with smart cities right now, and, you know, so it's the next adventure. It's where we're going.
Absolutely. And I love the enthusiasm, but also I love this kind of first step as a stepping stone. So I think that like, and I really hope that like we're looking at something for the next 3 to 4 years. So this is a stepping stone. We're just getting started in a way. This is kind of like the second wave of smart cities, if I may, where the ecosystem is more mature. We obviously have seen what COVID, etc., have changed, but in the long term, or like the large scheme of things, it doesn't change that much. But there is a second wave that we see it with this kind of movement after the first one, led by the large companies and the IBMs of this world. And I have nothing against them. We love them and they do amazing work, where it was like tech, tech, tech. We did this first wave, and now you're bringing this second wave, in the positive second aspect of really designing it around humans and around society and inclusion, etc. So what is your call to action for people like Cici, who is in the university, who is studying really hard to move the needle forward, and for the citizens who are here? Like, is there any call to action for this first edition again of the Smart City Experience?
So I guess the call to action is really come and discover all the different things you have to bring into consideration for when planning your smart city. It's very doable, and like I really like what you said about it being the second phase, because we have been having this conversation for a while. There have been different definitions. Now we're talking about empathetic cities and intuitive cities. But like before we go off, like there's a lot of like different disciplines that go into this, but bringing it back to basics and really realizing that these companies tested the technology, but it didn't fit with the urban and the municipal infrastructures. We didn't really have access to internet that was fast enough before to allow for smart cities, and we don't even today. It's coming in the next 5 years. But Cici, I mean, the future, like whatever you're studying in school, learn 5 more subjects. We need to be multidisciplinary. We need to be able to look at all questions from a variety of angles. And we need to be curious about different subjects. It's important to it's great to specialize in a certain area and like have and focus on it and be a leader in it. But in all the solutions we have to put forward, there's going to take a lot of other thinking that you have to integrate into it. And so that's when we're talking about ecosystems coming together, and that's when we're talking about we have to bring a bunch of different disciplines that don't have the habit of working together directly, even though we're all going towards the same thing. And maybe this is just a platform where we can have a shared conversation about it.
Absolutely. And Cici, I have a question for you, because it's really good that Noah highlighted the interdisciplinary aspect. You're in McGill, you're in final school years, etc., and we had this discussion on how can we inspire entrepreneurship, and the challenges of tomorrow are so big that we need this multidisciplinary aspect. So what do you see internally within the university students, etc., and after the out of the bubble, what would be your call for fellow last year, or we talked about like a third year of university, as well as like the employees that have, or graduates that have like 2 or 3 years of experience? How do you see like the place of those people within this kind of like smart city experience?
Well, I think what Noah said was definitely right. Like to learn, to keep your mind open and study more than just like what you're doing in your degree. Like we go to degree to really specialize, but then sometimes we become like laser focused on like our specialty, like our subject, whatever. But like I think it's important to stay curious and keep your mind open and like just learn a little bit about everything. And yeah.
The best learning happens after university. It's
exactly.
And we can just explore on our own. I mean, we learn to learn, and I think it's important to have a focus on things. But I studied political science and marketing, and I learned about innovation and technology, on my own, like as a personal passion and interest. And bringing these different thinkings together, it's why I get to spend time thinking about smart cities these days.
Absolutely. And you know what is? I just saw a message by Ashley. Hello, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Wonderful work with Montreal. You're doing.
Oh, Ashley! Hey.
Really proud of the work that you've been doing, and I think what I love about, and like I'll bring Montreal in a way. So kudos on her work. Montreal is a lot about like humans and the mentoring around it within a large organization. But if you think about it, and it's also like a big organization in the city. How can we mentor each other? How can we be more inclusive? And if you could get like these comments back on the screen, because like the comment left. So she asked in a way, or like she thought about, I never considered how the homeless population fits into a smart city. So the question is like, who is this for, really? Like, because I'm seeing this and it's mind blowing by the potential results in like 2 or 3 years, the ambition of it, of having those multi-parties. We talked about the role that students can have. And I really believe, and like Cici, you have to work hard to get those engineering students, but at the same time, from engineering to like psychology or philosophy or like these kind of different profiles, because it's only together that we can actually build something that is more meaningful, rather than having the weirdos like me 10 years ago, just like pushing for technology, but forgetting that it's at the heart of it is like the inclusion, including the humans and supporting them. So when we think about like, how can we include the homeless? How can we include the citizens? Who should attend like this kind of like event? And how are you trying to make sure that it's more inclusive from an actionable item? Because I've heard like you have like multiple components to this. It's not just like me talking and like having people talk and talk and talk. What's going on in more details, and who is it for, Noah, please?
So every Thursday from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have a series of experts come and really do short, concrete, almost case study style presentations of concrete projects that they're already doing for smart cities. And so these take a different angles, everything from sustainability. Franz Saint-Elamy will be talking about autonomous vehicles and how they can help our environmental impact. We'll have, like on the 5th, where we'll also have Viviane Gravel from BCT about how we can use technology to create human interaction platforms between cities and citizens. And in terms of like equitable cities, you know, it's a huge question, because you have to start to think about the populations, like the populations that don't fit into the standard of, you know, everybody have a smartphone and everybody is ready to interact with this city. And so Luc Desjardins from L'Itinéraire, I really want to tell you all a story, but he told it to me last night, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. It's a great story about thinking about autonomous vehicles in the homeless population. He'll be telling on November 5th. And we also have James Thurston from G3 ICT, which is a global organization that works with the United Nations on how to consider equitable cities for everybody. And so one of their primary focus is really bringing forward all these questions of, have you really thought about every citizen and every person that lives and uses your city in your smart city thinking? And they're really developing a movement, Smart Cities for All. And I'm really looking forward to his talk, because it's really helping cities thinking about not just inclusiveness, not just about building cities that are fair for everybody, but are truly equitable, where we can all take advantage of the benefits from a smart city.
And on the hands-on experience, I know that there are some workshops and things like that. How do you? Well, one, can you tell us slightly bit more if you can, or like, is that hidden? Maybe that's hidden, and like you have to register to be able to attend. Maybe that's a surprise. So I don't want like to blow up. D'où je suis francophone même. Gâcher la surprise, je vais le dire en français. J'ai pas envie de gâcher la surprise. Mais par contre, si ça te dérange pas, j'aimerais en anglais. Let's keep it this way. Mais
en bilingue, ça va.
En français, pourquoi pas. Peux-tu nous parler un petit peu plus des ateliers?
Absolutely.
Et ce que tu attends de ça, ou s'il y a un call ou un appel, ou potentiellement même une aide qu'on peut fournir, ou que l'écosystème ou que tous les gens qui nous regardent aujourd'hui peuvent contribuer à cette expérience-là pour maximiser l'impact.
Thanks for the question, Elias, because I hadn't mentioned it yet. But absolutely, we only have one primary stage for the conferences, but in tandem with the conferences, we'll be hosting the Urban Innovation Workshops. And these are real projects being developed by cities with partners or by the city itself. That they're in the ideation phase of developing. It's advanced, ideation is the wrong term. It's late ideation. They know what the project is, but now they're in the planning and the implementation phase. and there's some operational challenges that they're looking for some support to plan their next steps. And so we'll be working. So we have 3 organizations confirmed, with a 4th one coming soon. I'm just waiting for them to confirm before I let you all know. But the City of Montreal has put forward 2 of the projects they're working with. One with the organization Récolte, which is an organization which you can check on our website, the challenge, just to go quickly through them all. Jalon as well, they'll be presenting a challenge. And we have confirmed that the City of Dakar will be presenting a challenge about using drones to better analyze circulation within the city. And so what we're looking to do is recruit 6 to 10 experts per workshop, pre-selected, working specifically with the leaders of these organizations to respond to a specific question that they have in front of them right now. And I think it's really going to be some exciting challenges and some interesting discussions. And we will be organizing animated activities and workshops among the organizations with the participating organizations and the experts to really deliver something concrete that'll allow them to say, all right, to allow the organizations to advance in their project and also meet some potential collaborators that they continue to work with.
Absolutely. And, so I'm jumping on this answer to ask people here if there are any experts that you wanna suggest. If you have any expert that you wanna suggest, feel free to either comment here, tag them below, tag their name, or on LinkedIn, or refer them to Noah Redler or to me or to us or to whatever. Feel free to refer people, because we do believe that it's through this kind of recommendation as well that we will know or we'll get to know, and we will kind of like manufacture these serendipitous moments where we get the right people at the table. As Noah said, there is a vetting process, and the reason is very simple, is because this is like an activity that will be public, so you can attend, you can see, you can look, but the people working, we're trying to make it as a first experience with a smaller crowd. So hopefully for next year, so if there is any sponsor watching right now, Noah needs money to make it bigger for 2021. You can also contribute for 2020, but bigger for 2021, and hopefully getting a larger scale of this, because it's true that we need all the woman power and manpower and human power, as well as human brains, to contribute to this smarter city. Maybe last thing, I know that Valentin behind the scenes is like, oh, this Moroccan guy is going overboard again. But maybe a last thing, because with CC, for example, we worked with the Out of the Bubble. We did, they organized like Creative Collision, where you bring organizations, startups, researchers, and a variety of players to try to develop projects. So right now, on this kind of like call for people, what would be your advice for potential entrepreneurs? You know, Montreal NewTech for the last decade has been a lot about like startups and technology, leveraging technology for having a larger impact. What would be your advice for people who are thinking of joining this, or what? If I'm a startup, like, do I have a room in this smart city experience?
I think you have a. I think it's important that startups know they have a much bigger place than they realize. Cities are hungry to work with startups, but I think what startups need to do, and this is what the advice I would give to every entrepreneur, and what I did personally, learn how cities really work. These aren't businesses. This is public money. Their decision process is long and elaborate for a reason. Like if you look in the news, how many times have you heard the citizens complain that they used our money for this, they used our money for that? These decisions have to be taken well. And when you're proposing a smart city strategy, we were talking about, all these complicated different elements that we have to consider. A city has to consider all of those elements before implementing your solution. It's very complicated, and but there is a methodology and there's a way to work with cities, which is very clear, which is very well defined. Learn that. Learn how cities work to be able to better work with them. And it's important because cities want you to learn this so that you can work with them better. It is not the role of the city to teach you how to do it. It's the role of them to, really find ways to make projects go forward. And you need to entrepreneurs need to put in their effort as well to make this process a little simpler. So understand your market, understand who you're selling to, and understand how they make decisions, and the process will become a lot more manageable.
That's wonderful. I think the learning part is important, and you're right. Well, one, thank you very much for actually creating this experience and creating this opportunity, time and space, where we can all get to learn. And some people will like roll their sleeves and actually work, but a bunch of us will learn. As you said, like when we talk about open innovation, and that's one of the core things of what Montreal NewTech has been pushing for the last 4 years. It's a lot about like first and foremost, like learning and understanding what's going on the other side of the table, but also building trust and building those kind of like relationship that makes a better win-win, a real win-win situation, both for the multiple organizations and society as well. So that's good. Sorry, go ahead.
No, thanks very much. And this year, like exactly you said, it's our first edition, and we want to make sure the content is good and involve the participants as much as possible. Like you said, next year we'll be back, and we're going to try to make it bigger and better, and think about new ways to let people interact. But we just had to start somewhere, and just because the situation wasn't simple doesn't mean we shouldn't do what we were planning at the beginning of the year. No, I know it. I'm just saying.
And bravo pour ça. Sérieusement, bravo, bravo, bravo. Like I see some people like you, Mehdi Ben Boubacar. Hello, Mehdi.
Yeah, he delivered a great event just recently. Congrats to Montreal Connect.
Absolument. On est encore à lancer de Montréal aussi. Like you see those kind of like organizations that are actually like who managed to figure it out. And Montreal Connect had like 600 speakers, 10,000 people. I don't know how they slept, but they delivered. And like C'est de Montréal again, and like now I'm extremely happy and grateful to be in this ecosystem, to see like some leaders such as yourself being able, and like we are in Coopératon as well. Like I couldn't not mention this.
And there's Forward 50 next week as well. In 2 weeks, Forward 50 about e-government. So that came back as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. By the way, like Denis, you're in the background, or Valentin, but like Forward 50 is a really cool initiative as well, as led by the team behind Startup Fest as well. Amazing thing. It's fwd50.com, I believe. Yeah. Really, really cool on how the governments as well should embrace, and how they embrace digital transformation while keeping humans at the center. And I think those are like some of the highlights that we should highlight here today. So like check Forward 50 as well. Yeah. Like that's a wonderful initiative, and kudos to the organizers as well. And knowing them, I know that the experience itself will be very interesting as well. So these kind of like experiences, also on how like can we digitalize those kind of like serendipitous moments and collaborative moments, are really key in us to learn as well. Il y a un aspect important que Noah a souligné, donc merci beaucoup. Donc Forward 50, c'est la 3e ou 4e année qu'ils le font. Really cool. It used to happen in Ottawa on November 30th. So we'll get the chance to talk about it in the le check-in. But thanks, Noah, for bringing this up today.
For sure.
But Noah highlighted an important point, and I would like, I want to ask Cici a question, but before we close, a very important point that Noah said, and this is something that we had a big argument with Cici before, is we need to get people out of their bubble so that they understand, like the word is understand, how things happen on the other side. And only by understanding this, that you will be able to learn how to engage with the other side. And what I mean by the other side is, if you're an entrepreneur or a startup and you're wondering why I can't work with Desjardins, or why I can't work with IBM, or why I can't work with a big company, it's the same thing when we talk about a city. If you don't understand better how to engage with the city, how it works, you will never be able to sell, to co-create, to collaborate. So you have to seize your opportunities when you see something like the Smart City experience, that people work their ass off. And thank you, Noah, and the City of Montreal, Jalon, Les Dartec, Bell, Énergie, etc., to support those kind of stuff. Thank you very much, because you create the space and time where us as entrepreneurs, or as ecosystem builders, or as ecosystem support, we can come to the table, learn, and know how it works. So that when we sit down another day with the city and we want to actually sell a service, sell a product, we understand the intricate cities of that process. And this is really key. So please, 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 we don't do those shows just for the show. I don't dedicate time here just because I have a free Friday at noon to be on a show. I have better fish to fry, but I believe in what people like doing. And thanks again for this. But the reason why we do this show is also to make sure that the right opportunities, and we curate them, we don't invite no random people, are the right ones for you. But we want you to know that this is really an opportunity that you have to seize to better understand. If you are in B2B in general, you should attend Smart City Experience, especially if you're developing technologies and you're wondering how you can make them more accessible to citizens or do business with cities. This is a key experience to have. Now, that was my kind of like a remark, but I have last question to Cici, sorry. And it made me think because you're involved also with the AI for Good hackathon, and it's a lot about like leveraging the data that is like at Centraide and other organizations. Can you tell us a bit more about the AI for, I know we will talk about it like in November or something, but when Noah talked about Forward 50, it kind of like made me think of the AI for Good. And can you tell us maybe a slightly bit about it? And I would like to bring this to Noah right after. I can't hear you. That's the sentence of the century. Can you hear? Noah, can you hear?
No.
No, Simran. Cici, I can't hear you. Oh, your mic is muted. I think, okay, now you should be. Now you chose to mute yourself. You're muted. Refresh your page. Refresh your page. That's how we finish a show. On like,
refresh.
Exactly, a big highlight. No, mais en fait, ça m'y a fait penser parce que I think, you know, what Ashley was talking about, like the inclusion. And it made me think of like, how can we include those citizens? And I think like those nonprofits that work with organizations that support those citizens has to be included in these kind of discussions as well.
I think a lot of, like everybody has to be involved in it. I mean, whether you work for an organization or whether you organize a green alley project in your neighborhood, you know, there's different solutions. I used to work at the city of Montreal, and I always loved the Green Alley Initiative. I think it's a great community project, a great way to make our alleys look nicer and for citizens to come together. But it's hard to maintain them over the long term. You really need like a dedicated group of homeowners who are going to put the time and energy every spring to take care of them. Well, what if we could help out with that a little bit? What if we could monitor the life of plants in the city and have more community gardens and just simplify the management of these spaces? If we just, you know, it's a little thing, but if we could reduce the cost of management of, by 10% of all the services in Montreal, we could, I don't have the math in front of me, I'm sorry, but like, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I mean, sorry, but like, it's, you know, that's a lot of money we can invest in other things and other projects. And it's not about replacing people. It's just about, you know, some things take too much time and are too laborious. So let's fix that. Let's fix that first. I think we may have lost Cici. So
I think like technology kind of like failed a bit, but this is like, I think the reality of the COVID, etc., is like everything is powered by technology, but it's these kind of conversations that has to happen and that you're offering here as well. But what you said is really interesting, because I know that a lot of people who may watch us are thinking about the future and are in this kind of like in the midst of the impact of the COVID. They're trying to either find their place in the future for them as a citizen, as well as the workforce, etc. And I think the future is bright. I know like it may sound bleak today, but like I know that the future is bright. And you said a sentence that I like, and I think it's really important. Technology will not replace humans. There is so much to be done that if we can take technology and give it a spot to do something for us, then we can take back time for us to do something else. And what I see, even like I live in Griffintown, and like now we have a community garden, and I see people like enjoying these kind of community gardens and like contributing and sharing, etc. And this is like the mini things where you can have like your citizen contribute to society as well as like take back some time for yourself. So I do believe that whether you're thinking about like a green alley or something else such as like this, we need the technology. We need the citizens themselves. We need the beneficiary to be involved. And I think the city of Montreal, and I don't mean this because I live here, but the city of Montreal, even since 2011 and others, have been trying like to engage with the citizens. They run few hackathons. I know that Hack Quebec, the city of Montreal is pushing for that. And I think that you are making this more accessible, even beyond like when you hear hackathon, you're like, okay, a bunch of techies, but you're making it more accessible because both you create the space for a conference where people teach and share, but also those kind of like little workshops involving those multi-parties are really, really key. So thank you very, very much, Noah, for that. I will say a bit like what Cici wanted to say, but like she was tired of me or you, I don't know, hopefully just me, and she left. But AI for Good is an initiative by Osmo behind, as well as Centraide du Grand Montréal, to raise money for Centraide, but also to run a hackathon. And we're very, very happy to have contributed and work, to have Montreal NewTech contribute and work over the last couple of years on that. There is a conference with Hugo La Rochelle on the second week of November. I think it will be in the middle of the Smart City experience as well. So maybe something to be seen there, as well as the hackathon that will happen over a weekend. It will be interesting to see. I honestly, truly, and I apologize for not knowing. So I love my team and the team of Montreal NewTech, but there are nonprofit being involved there. So potentially there is something to be done, or at least like to showcase or talk. But this is really important to highlight, is that there are such initiatives where you bring all the players around the table. So your voice needs to be heard, and they are using a great platform that will allow you as well to network, to mingle with people, to take those break times between conferences where you can meet with each other and create those serendipitous moments. So again, Noah, to close on that, I would like to thank you again for taking the time today, for the time and efforts with the whole Arche Innovation that is currently working with a variety of other players on helping develop from the ground up in open innovation and innovation ecosystems. And they're walking the talk. So I love what Arche is doing and has been doing over the years by helping also municipalities and organizations develop innovation pipelines and collaborative innovation. Now, this smart city experience is a key one for whether you're a citizen, an entrepreneur, or an employee and thinking about entrepreneurial things, as well as if you're working in a city throughout Canada and even throughout the world. As you heard, there is Dakar who is involved, and hopefully even more people throughout the world. So for the people watching this, share it, invite your friends. It's super accessible. Can you maybe like, Noah, if you can give us like a little pitch? I can do the pitch if you want, but like I would love to have your kind of like wrapping up pitch on like, what is it? For who is it? Who's invited? How much is it? What should we expect? And why should people come?
Well, sure, to wrap up on that, and as always, a pleasure to collaborate with you and Montreal NewTech on this event, and like in so many other projects that we worked on over the years. So just to wrap up, I would say smart city experience. If you work for a municipality or any public entity, if you're a community group, or if you're an innovator working in a smart city project, and you really want to expand your thinking and think about all the different elements that go into a smart city, and learn from people who have already, people working in cities who have already done the projects and will share from their experience. Come check us out November 5th from 2 to 5 p.m. in French content to focus on the city of Montreal. November 12th from 2 to 5 p.m. in French content, focus on the province of Quebec. November 19th from 2 to 5 p.m. English content focusing on Canadian projects across Canada. And November 26th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. to align with international GMT time. We will be talking about the international perspective and a lot of nice surprises coming for the 26th yet to be announced.
Wonderful. And un énorme merci, Noah. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for this, organizing this. Definitely looking forward to it. And for anyone who's on the edge or on the, it's extremely accessible. I think the tickets are like $25 or $30. It's very, very accessible for the, I think, is it per event or is it for the 4 things?
It's $25 per event or $75 for the 4 events altogether. And I think Montreal NewTech is going to be doing a ticket giveaway next week. So maybe it's just...
I wasn't aware, but yeah.
No,
I'm learning as well. I apologize. I'm running also co-part, also missing out on some stuff. But yes, we will have like a great opportunity to also help people. So if you want a ticket, just comment below and we will let you know when the giveaway is ready. I know that Andy Manel on the Montreal NewTech team is probably going to do this setup and send on the newsletter and everything. Thank you so much, Noah, for organizing this. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Yeah, if you have a last word maybe, or otherwise, I wish you a beautiful Friday, man. Thank you.
I'll just say thank you, Elias, and thank you, Cici, for the chat today. Thanks to the Montreal NewTech team for setting this up. Like I said, always a pleasure working with you all, and I'll see you very soon.
Yeah, definitely. So have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy the sun outside, and thanks again for taking the time today.
Thanks, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.